Hey, hey, Blue Table fans! Boom! Oh, yeah. Do you want to know why I'm excited? Because I am sitting next to the Mozart of miniature work. Now, he's going to be all embarrassed, but he's going to be like, I wish you really hadn't said that, you know, because now I gotta live up to this giant name, you know, and there'll be part of Dave, because he's very humble, there'll be part of Dave that will think, you know, is Sean being sarcastic? Is he mocking me? You know, like he tried to get me to say pound a hamburger out at the hamburger joint, and he's like, wait a minute, are you trying to get me to say something inappropriate here? By the way, I'm picking the price tags off of these Dropzone Commander rulebooks. So anyway, you've probably seen the intro to the game that we had the other night. That ended up being about a half hour of not getting very far. But we actually did have a game. I decided to leave it off because, you know, that way I would know the game and then I'd be able to give you a proper demonstration. So this is Dave Lewis. So tell us the brief history of the creation of your game Dropzone Commander.
There we go. I left uni and basically went straight into developing this.
What's uni?
University.
Did you drop out or did you graduate?
No, I graduated. I did a 4-year
okay.
product design masters.
Oh, nice.
Left that, decided I didn't want to spend my life designing kettles and mobile phones, which is kind of the lot of a lot of product designers. Sort of just following others' directions and things. So I thought I'd go on with this. I went travelling for 3 months in Australia to kind of get my mind right and know I actually wanted to do it, and then spend.
Was that a walkabout?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, yeah. It was 3 months of kind of, well, let's see where this goes and see if I still want to do this when I get back. And I did, and then spent about 2.5 years developing this game. I did pretty much everything, all the design the models, painted the models, did the photography, wrote the rules, wrote the background, did the graphics. I did have some help assembling the book. I won't take credit for all of it, but I did all the content, and pretty much everything in there is my work. But it took a long time, but I think it was worth it, and it's great to see it out there and being played by people at last, which is brilliant.
Well, I got to play it last night up here at Valhalla, and I'm being conservative. Right now I'm being conservative because I've only played it once. So I'm going to say it's one of the best war games I've ever played. But bear in mind, I've only played 40K Fantasy and War Machine Hordes. And by the way, this was the first game, not those that I've ever played. Even though at the studio we're always looking at other games. But I am very familiar with the war game industry and how companies work and, you know, the feel of different games. And I get to see people's reactions. And here's why this game is good. The models and imagery are very evocative. They're done very well. The different races have definite shapes and themes to them. It's very distinct. And in contrast, a lot of war games you see come out are very chaotic. It's, you know, whatever strikes the artists or creators' fancy that day, they make that and somehow they just cram it into this, you know, menagerie of stuff. And but that's not the case with this game. It's extremely focused. So can you speak to that? Because there's 4 races. So how was the process figuring out what each one would look like and feel like?
Well, I mean, partly that consistency thing, that's partly due to the fact that it was just me doing it. So I could have a definite idea of what I wanted and didn't have any sort of being pushed this way and that by various factors. But essentially I know every gamers have preference with play style, with, you know, style of design and things. There's going to be a race in Dropzone that you don't like, probably, that you look at and go, they're not for me. But there'll be one that you do like. It's all designed so there's something to appeal to most gamers' sensibilities anyway. So you've got the United Colonies of Mankind, humans. They're very modern military, sci-fi, kind of Halo, Aliens perhaps obviously influenced me a bit working on those. But they're all unique designs. They're not copies of anything, but it's a design style that's quite familiar to a lot of you, I expect. And any Imperial card players and things are going to like the UCM because they look good with massed ranks, tanks, that kind of thing. And then you've got the PHR, the Post-Human Republic. They're mechs, walkers.
Very sleek.
Very sleek, smooth
Curved.
lines. Play style suits, the painting style suits Space Marine players actually, because it's very clean and very clear cut. But they're inspired by Japanese anime quite a lot, but more than Ghost in the Shell, more the kind of westernised style rather than the out and out Gundam big spiky mechs, because I'm not a fan of those.
Right. That's over the top.
The over the top kind of flying stupid spiky
Like
mech.
a 13-year-old came up with that.
Yeah, they're more.
And then he has a gun that can blow up planets.
Yeah. No, they're more gritty.
They're
realistic.
conservative.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
But very voluptuous. Very full-figured.
And then you've got the Scourge, which are the bad guys, which are gribbly bad guys, very nasty, red glowing eyes, and sort of organically inspired. Very
well. The Scourge are parasites that infest people's brains.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Also kind of a classic sci-fi.
Oh yeah,
element. You know.
That's going. That whole assimilation thing is fairly familiar. It's a sensible way of capturing a planet rather than the classic destroy all humans thing, which doesn't really make a lot of sense. If you're after resources, then you just take
What
take
is
a clean
what
planet,
is the genre of this game? And I'm going to say it is classic science fiction. It's but not. You don't look at this and go, oh yeah, I've seen all this before. It has kind of a, I'm not going to say a spin or a twist, but it has focus. It's been focused down. So go ahead, and then there's the Shaltari. That's my race.
Which that's actually my race of choice as well. If I play games, I like Shaltari because they have a lot of sneaky tactics, which is quite fun. And you have a lot of
it's the finesse army.
Yeah, a lot of flexibility. You need finesse to wield them, but they're cool. They're my favourite race design-wise because they were the hardest ones to pin down. And I think probably my most original of the four, I'd say. You probably won't have seen anything like them before.
Reading the background, I found elements that were familiar. Like I was like, this is like that, or this is like that. But a lot of it was also, okay, wow, that was weird. I hadn't heard of that aspect. Like the Shaltari are covered with translucent, flexible spines, head to toe.
Yeah, and they kind of change colour like cutfish, and they also. The Shaltari are in some ways familiar in that they're an ancient race that lived for a very long time, but physically they don't. A Shaltari physically lives for a few centuries at most, but they transcend their mortal lives through technology. So basically they transfer their soul to a new clone, and then that clone lives on with their consciousness. So it's consciousness transfer as opposed to just being an immortal kind of species, because they do breed, live and die like anybody else does. So the longer they last... So
there's things that are familiar, but they've been, switched up and focused down.
You Shaltari are very short. They're only 3.5, sort of 4 feet tall, little guys, quite physically weak, but, this technology is everything to them. They kind of... Their whole culture is based around it. They're very aggressive and warlike, though.
I like their infantry are like these giant... Well, I guess in the game they'd be like 12-foot tall mech suits, and they just get into the cockpit.
What would be a kind of 9-10 foot tall warrior to a human, is like a big battle suit to a Shaltari, because they're quite small, so they fit inside the torso quite happily, and they're quite nasty. They're tough infantry. So
so I was talking about why I like the game. So it's the background is fleshed out to basic level in this rulebook. Obviously, in the future there will be expansions and more revelations. And but what I liked about this game is it was complex but balanced, and it actually reminded me not of the play style, but it reminded me of the flavor of War Machine itself. Like, I liked War Machine because it was like, oh, you could do this and this and this and this and this. You always had options. And synergy is not an afterthought with this game. Synergy is woven in very well and makes sense. And that's the gameplay on this is amazing. It's just like okay, I need to do this and that, and then I need to cover these guys. And what if the, you know, and the different types of units really play very distinct roles. You have to bring the right tool to do the right job in the right place, and it also breaks convention in turn, because like most war games, like, okay, I deploy, right?
Yeah.
In this one, your ships are all like flying through the air off the board somewhere, and you actually have to deploy your troops very critically
Yeah.
in response to where your opponent goes. Strategically, I meant to say.
Yeah, it's kind of
Okay,
like-
go ahead. So
Yeah, it's kind of
talk
shape,
about
yeah.
talk about gameplay and game design, then.
Well, I mean, obviously the way Dropzone developed was, I had an idea first, which was the whole dropship thing. The reason it works is the whole thing is completely designed around the dropships from day one. That was, and to build a dropship game where it's all focused around combined arms and mobility. From there, I chose the scale, the miniature designs, everything was all based around that, which is why it works, because a lot of the time you find that a game starts off with infantry and tanks, and when it gets bigger they introduce things like flyers later, but often the rules weren't written really with flyers and dropships in mind, so they get written in, retrofitted.
Right, as an afterthought.
Yeah, and it works, sort of, but it doesn't really, it's not central to the game. If you don't take dropships and Dropzone, you'd almost certainly lose. You need them.
You do.
You won't be able to get anywhere quickly.
You've got to get in, find an objective. It is so hard, and it's so dicey. We were just like biting our nails to the last possible second. It was chills and spills. I couldn't even believe it. I was just like, I've got to find these objectives. So your troops, your warriors, which are on these little stands, 3 to 5 per stand typically, right?
Yeah.
And they're the only ones that can go into buildings. So the terrain is huge. Is not an afterthought either. It's hugely important.
Hugely important.
So only your troops can go into buildings and find these objectives. Well, there's like 12 different scenarios.
Yeah. They don't
So-
all have objectives like that, but a lot of them do.
And then you have to start searching the building. You can't just be like, okay, I'm in the building, I have the objective. No, you've got to roll. And it's so tense. It's like, please find it so you can get out of there. And the buildings, your guys can move inside the building. So that first they enter the building, so they're in the lobby, so to speak.
Yeah.
And then you can mount the walls. So you can actually move your troops to the different wall facings and fire out those directions, which turns out to have huge impact in the game. While the other ones are like, while they're searching for this objective. And then once they get it, then they got to get out and get into an APC and like get off the board edge. Oh, it's so tense. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
And you can destroy the buildings too with everybody inside them.
Yeah, which happens quite a lot. I mean, it happened to you in there, in that
Yeah,
you've
I
got to-
finally found the objective, and my guys are just like sprinting to the door, and then it just all went, and they didn't make it. Not a single survivor.
No, it's not.
Brutal.
It's not easy to do with bigger buildings. You have to really mean it. If you want to flatten a building, you've got to pour a lot of firepower in there, but you'll get it eventually. If you really want a building destroyed, you'll flatten it.
It's not flippant. It's not like, oh, I blow up that building. Oh, I blow up that. It's not monster apocalypse. It's like in our game, there was one building that ended up being destroyed.
Yeah.
But what's great is, in order to fire on the troops inside with these bigger things, you can't fire directly at them.
You can do that.
shoot. Oh, can you?
Yeah, if
my
there's
bad. I
if
didn't know
there's
that.
it didn't really come up in our game, but if you've got infantry on the walls, when
They
putting
can
them
be
on the
shot
walls
at.
does mean that you can shoot at them directly, but often it's better to shoot the building and hope that bits of falling masonry come down and kill the men, because that can happen as
Yeah,
well.
that's what I was going to say. Falling masonry. I never thought I'd be defeated by falling masonry.
Which gets more and more likely as the building takes more damage.
All right, so last topic. Tell us about the future. Well, hold on. Before I go into that, before we go into future of the game, so Dropzone Commander is available now. The game's been so successful that it's sold out, but now you're back with stock,
Yeah.
and I can't recommend this game enough. It's really super, and hold on. Oh, and so the 4 factions, this isn't just like a few things. he's created. I think everything in the rule book is out.
It is, yeah. It was
Right.
all out from day one. Everything.
So hold on, let's just look at Shaltari. I'm gonna just count the number of different types of things for one of the races. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. And that ain't not bad. So 14, and if they all had about that, it'd be about 60 releases
Yeah,
for this game. And it plays well. It plays plenty well with even half of those.
I mean, the release strategy was quite unusual, and that's not been done before, I think, with that many releases in one go. But the whole
He busted it out. I mean, this you have no idea what a huge effort this is. It's amazing. Okay, so tell us about the future of the game. What's next?
Okay, well, obviously the background in that book launches as the UCM is just about to relaunch its campaign to recapture its old planets from the Scourge, who took Earth and all of Earth's
The
best
humans.
planets
Yeah, it begins with the humans were defeated.
very badly. But the whole ethos of Dropzone is partly that it's focused on hope rather than the usual kind of despair, doom and gloom thing, because
It's not dystopian
No,
future.
humanity is on the offensive, and it's recapturing its way back. It's going to have a lot of obstacles in the way. The other half of humanity, the PHR, doesn't really agree with them, but that's where other things with the background kick in. But each new release, there'll be expansions, like most war games. That's pretty conventional, but expansions will introduce new models, new things.
But what's going to be the format of the rules? How are you going to come out?
As in what would it be in an
Well,
expansion?
you're gonna release new models.
Oh yeah.
Where do I get the rules for my new models?
Before an expansion is launched, new models, because obviously, as you say, everything in the book is released. There'll be free downloads for any new models we release before the new expansion, because there will be a few more before the first expansion comes out. So the rules will be available for free online for those new models. So you'll be able to play from day one. You won't be waiting around for rules.
Okay. So they'll be available online.
Yeah, they will be, and then when the expansion comes out, they'll be printed in the expansion along with some new stuff that you won't have
So
seen
will it
before.
follow the format that Privateer Press did for a while? Like it'll be, Dropzone Commander 2, or whatever you call it, and then it'll have the 4 expansions for all 4 factions.
Yeah, it'll have
Is that
a new
what you're
name.
looking at?
Yeah, and possibly, although I'm not going to be drawn on this at the moment, but new races, each new expansion will probably introduce a new race, or at least a big new thing to the game, whether it be a new race or something else.
Maybe a sub
Yeah,
sect of
you'll
one
get
of the-
you'll get new scenarios because it's very heavily scenario-based Dropzone.
Do you have any plans for a magazine or I don't know, some kind of supplementary thing?
Oh yeah, well at the moment we've got a fairly
he's up to his
informal-
gills just doing what he's doing, right?
Yeah,
I'm like,
we've got new
so when are you
people
doing a
that-
magazine about your game?
We've got new people starting. We've been doing fairly informal and irregular newsletters up till now, but with the new guys...
You must be thinking out,
Oh, yeah.
5, 10 years even.
Oh yeah, we've
what
got...
it could be.
At the moment, I've got 5 years worth of sort of set down plans for Dropzone, and I will continue supporting it for as long as gamers want to play, because I love this and I don't want to
You will want to play this game. Like I'm completely jaded. You have no idea how jaded I am, but I'm very excited about this game. And I was from the beginning. Something just captured my imagination. Dropzone Commander, and all his miniatures make you want to make a noise. It's so cool. Like your interceptors. What are they called?
Yeah,
Interceptors.
Yeah, your archangels. Those
Yeah,
are your ones.
you have but you have a type of unit that actually goes on an attack run, and then they're off the board. They're going like 600 miles an hour, and I'm just like, that's amazing. That is, so you have to plan. You're like, you don't know where those guys are going to come on, so you better be ready. You better be ready to intercept them with your own Air Force.
Or put your air defense assets in the right place to protect certain things from airstrikes and things like that.
Right. The mark of a good game of any kind is that you sit up at night thinking about it, thinking about strategy. So I've got my guys. They're coming up with every single Dropzone Commander figure that we have in the studio, and I'm going to lay them all out and figure out what the armies are, and go back with illuminated eyes and look at this rule book again. Be like, okay, this is how I can put together my army, and I'm so excited. Well, This is Dave Lewis. He's the owner and creator and mastermind at Hawk War Games, and also the publisher of Dropzone Commander. And I'm going to name this my top wargaming pick of 2012. Be sure to check it out.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dave. Thanks
Cheers,
for coming.
Thank you. No worries.